Witam wszystkich bardzo serdecznie w kolejnym odcinku podcastu About Time, w którym rozmawiamy o zrównoważonym życiu. Oglądamy go z różnych, bardzo czasami dziwnych i niespotykanych perspektyw. A dzisiaj porozmawiamy o tym, jak trzymać ten balans w życiu. I moim wyjątkowym, naprawdę niesamowitym gościem dzisiaj jest Robin Sharma, który jest jednym z najwybitniejszych światowych ekspertów w dziedzinie rozwoju osobistego. Jest autorem absolutnych bestsellerów i genialnych książek. Mnich, który sprzedał swoje Ferrari, Klub Piąta rano, czy ostatniej książki, którą bardzo polecam, Manifest codziennego bohatera. Teraz będziemy rozmawiać po angielsku, więc I switch to English now. Hello, Robin. How are you?
Hello, Anna. Great to chat with you.
Yeah, it's really nice having you here. So my first question is kind of a base to our conversation. So why do you think we need, or if we need, a balance in our life?
Well, so it's a great question. As you know, I talk a lot more about leadership and productivity and how do you live a rich life. And it's not only balance, but I think there are a lot of people who have a lot of money and a lot of success, but they have a lack of soul. And what's the point of reaching the mountaintop of success according to what society says is success, but being empty and alone and unhappy in the process? And so in my new book, The Everyday Hero Manifesto, for example, I talk about the importance of living your talents and doing your dreams and being productive. But at the same time, I talk about the importance of having a rich family life and a rich physical life and a rich spiritual life. And I think once you have both sides, you live a much more fulfilling life.
So how do you measure this balance? Because I think we tend to kind of get into this imbalances because we are workaholic or we running out of the success. And so how to find yourself in the balance? What do you think?
Well, I think it's not scientific, it's artistic. And what I mean by that is I really believe that our instinct is so much more powerful than our intellect. And each one of us has a conscience inside of us, or like a GPS inside of us. And in the 5 a.m. Club, I talked about the importance of joy, using your joy as your GPS. And so for each of us, we know when we're out of balance. We don't feel good. We feel tired. We're not joyful. We're not creative. We might even be depleted product in terms of our productivity. So I think we know when we know.
So what do we do when we know how to search the source of this imbalance?
Well, the first thing is to move. You have to start making some decisions. I mean, in my books, whether it's the 5 a.m. Club or the Everyday Hero Manifesto, there are hundreds of different ideas to restore balance. One is to get up early and spend 1 hour exercising and writing in a journal and reading. That's part of what the 5 a.m. Club is all about. Another thing I talk about is the importance, as simple as it sounds, Anna, of a weekly schedule. And on the schedule is not only your business meetings, but also your family meals and maybe some time for meditation and exercise and being in nature. There are a lot of different ways to inject balance into your life. Another one is to optimize your habits. I mean, genius is less about your genetics and more about your habits. So if you want to live a more productive life and a more happy life and peaceful life, you've got to install better habits. And that's not only the 5 a.m. Club habit, but it could be the habit of what I call the second wind workout, which is a second workout. Maybe it's a nature walk after you finish work. A habit like writing in a journal, that can restore balance because you can get a lot of perspective on how you're living every day, and you can celebrate where you're winning and build gratitude. So that's a great way to build a lot of balance. And even one of the things I talk about is taking 1 day a week off, digital device free. And during that day, you don't check your email, you don't check your social media, you just live. You live in the moment. Maybe you go to an art gallery, maybe you try a new type of food, maybe you go for a walk, but you take the time for yourself.
Yeah, I think this living a moment is kind of hard to achieve this nowadays. So except the social media and all the internet stuff, what do you think creates tension in our life today?
Well, Anna, I want to go back to what you said, which is, it's hard. I think it's only hard if we allow it to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
So, we can fall into this self-hypnosis. Well, it's hard to break free of checking email. It's hard not to be on social media. It's hard not to pick up your phone every time it rings. But we have choice, and that's the difference between leadership and victimhood. Victims basically say, I don't have any power. This is the way life is. I cannot change. I cannot be more creative. I cannot be more productive. I can't live a better life. But leadership, or heroism, as I call it in the Everyday Hero Manifesto, is about understanding that we all have a lot of choice. Even if we're not exercising the choices available to us, we do have a lot of choices. And so what the most productive people do, for example, the best business people, I've mentored a lot of billionaires and top CEOs and sports athletes, but they use technology as a servant, not as their master. And they structure their work lives as well as their personal lives. So they do the things that are most important to them instead of letting technology invade their days. Because as I say in my books, like the 5 a.m. Club, I say an addiction to distraction is the end of your creative production. And too many people in our world today are losing the best hours of their finest days watching videos or surfing online or watching celebrities on some of the social platforms, losing time and energy and focus and creativity that they're never going to get back.
Yeah, I think this is so common, and as you said, it's your choice actually. So yeah, thank you for that. I think you might just make a decision every single second you're living, and I hope it will be a good decision. But anyway, we are living in a very consumptive world of having and feeling and experiencing. So how to recognize what's enough? And this is something that you also address in your book, that enough is enough. So how do I know that it's enough and I don't need more?
Well, again, you'll know when you know. For some billionaires, it's never enough. And for some people, I've met taxi drivers, Anna, I've met ski instructors, and they're the happiest people in the world. And the great thing about a human life is we get to live it in the way that we want. And I don't know which book you're focusing on. I think my publisher said it was Who Will Cry When You Die, or is it the 5 a.m. Club? Do you?
No, I'm focusing on manifesto of Everyday Hero.
On the Everyday Hero Manifesto. So, there are chapters in there that will help people make a lot of money, a lot more money, but there's also a lot of chapters in that book that talk about the incredible importance of literally what you said, having enough. And there's a story I talk about in the book of these two authors, and it was Joseph Heller and Kurt Vonnegut, two very famous authors, as you know. And they were at a cocktail party of a billionaire on Long Island. And one author said to the other, what does it feel like knowing that our host of this cocktail party made more money yesterday than you will make in your entire career as an author? And the other author replied, he said, well, that doesn't matter because I have something that he'll never have, the feeling of enough. So what I would say is, yes, we live in a material world, and I don't think there's anything wrong with material things. I don't think you have to be a monk living in the Himalayas. If you want to have a nice car or a nice handbag, or someone wants to have a nice watch or a nice home, great for them. I just think we run into problems when we become attached to our things and we identify our value in the world with the value of the material possessions we have. So I think the magic, and I talk about it in the Everyday Hero Manifesto, the magic is to enjoy the material things of modern life, but not to need them and not to spend your hours mindlessly chasing them. There are so many things that bring more joy than things, including being creative in your work, helping other people, enjoying hobbies that fill your spirit, reading great books, listening to beautiful music, eating wonderful food, living in a way that honors your values. Those things are, and even have accumulating wisdom. Those things are so much more valuable than material things.
Yeah, chasing your dreams is really important in your life. I was just thinking about how to find out the balance in it and not just spend your life chasing, but enjoying life, as you said. So you are writing about that in your book, about the manifesto, about the everyday hero. So who is the everyday hero?
Well, I'm sure it's the same in Poland, but around the world, people say that heroes are celebrities or sports stars or humanitarians like Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King Jr., or maybe artists like Jean-Michel Basquiat or Picasso. And yes, many of those people have achieved noble and grand things. But just because we're not famous, and maybe because we don't have a lot of money, doesn't mean we can't be heroes in our own unique way. I mean, look at what we just went through in the pandemic. Certainly the frontline people and the nurses and the doctors and the EMT, the emergency people, certainly they're heroes. Isn't the teacher who goes to school every day prepared and passionate and committed to excellence to teach his or her children, isn't that a hero? Isn't the single mother or the single father who has 3 jobs and yet still doesn't complain and works hard to help their children move forward, isn't that a hero? How about the startup entrepreneur, 21 years old? Everyone laughs at him or her, but they still believe in their mission and their app, for example, that will change the world. So the Everyday Hero Manifesto is a 101 chapter book that has the methodology that I've shared with many of the most successful people in the world to help people become heroes of their own lives. So they live their potential, so they're not busy being busy, so they become more productive, more prosperous, and live in a way that makes the world a better place. And it's not just inspiration, it's tactics, habits, models, and methods that will really help people live better lives.
And how do you recognize one's talents and base your power on them?
Oh, there's so many different ways, and I talk about a lot of techniques in the book, including writing in a journal. I mean, for the past 25 years or so, almost every morning when I get up, I meditate and I pray, I exercise, and then I write in a journal. And so one of the things you could do is get in the habit every morning of writing in a journal about the things that you're good at, the things that people say that you're good at, and the things that you do that when you do them, it doesn't even feel like work. Because if you look at many of the great artists or entrepreneurs or movement makers, these people had one thing in common. They found something to do that was so fun for them to do that it really didn't feel like work. But how do you find your talents? You write in a journal, or you start spending time thinking about what your talents might be. You might ask yourself a series of questions. You know, what are the things that I do that when I do them, people say that I'm really good at these things? And another thing is, again, using joy as a GPS. What are the things that you do that when you do them, you're not only very good at them, but they bring you a sense of joy? I used to be a litigation lawyer. I think it's a great profession, but I didn't enjoy it. Then I started writing and giving leadership speeches and recording these videos that I do on YouTube, and it doesn't feel like work at all. I'm not saying it's always easy, Anna, but it doesn't really feel like I work. It's because, and even though I put in a lot of hours every day, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like a calling. It feels like a blessing. It feels like I'm doing something that's fun for me.
It's so good for you that you find your calling then, because everybody enjoys it and has a lot of outcome out of it. So, but that's not, again, very common, because I think we are stuck in all those duties, and kind of bad habits that doesn't really that are not based on our potential. So what do you think is really important to kind of integrate yourself and lead yourself to the better, more I don't know, like creative way?
Well, I mean, it's a good question. It's a general question. The first thing I'd say is, if the more we recite our excuses, the more we hypnotize ourselves to believing that they're real. So if we say, well, it's not common to find work that you love. It's not common to run a marathon. It's not common to start a business that dominates the domain. It's not common to find true love. It's not common to live a life that's full of happiness, even though we all have tragedy. If we say those kinds of things, the positive, let's go to the science. The positive psychologists tell us that our daily behavior reflects our personal story. And I'll repeat that again because it's so important. Our daily behavior reflects our personal story, or the lens through which we see the world. And I talk a lot about this in the Everyday Hero Manifesto. We don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. So we've adopted the beliefs that our parents have given us. We've adopted the beliefs that the media has given us. We've adopted the beliefs that our friends have given us. And so we think if we see the world in a limited way, we think we're seeing reality. We're actually just seeing our perception of reality as we run it through our filter. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Right. So how can we start rewiring the filter so we see more of the truth? Well, one way is to get up early and give yourself 1 hour. That's what the 5 a.m. Club book is all about. It's exactly how do you spend the first hour of your day in a way that makes you stronger and more energetic and more confident and more disciplined. So you could start off by exercising, prayer and meditation, reading an autobiography. And then you'll learn there's so many people in the world who started off poor, or started off with difficult circumstances, or who started off with people who didn't believe in them. But through taking risks and learning and growing, they created incredible lives. So that's one way. Another way we could rewire our personal story is we can release the energy vampires and the toxic people from our lives. Because I believe you can change the world, or you can be around negative people who don't believe in you. You can't do both. And then another thing is, I mean, a lot of people go to work and they say, I will work harder, I will do better work, I will commit myself to excellence, I will be really, really good at what I do when I become the boss, or when I become the CEO, or when I get paid more money. I think it's important to lead where you're planted. And this is a huge opportunity. I mean, how many masters do you see when you go to a coffee shop, or go into a shoe shop, or get on an airplane, or go to a hotel? Most people are exhausted. Most people are just doing as little as required to get the job done. So even something as simple as doing your work like it's your craft, and getting better at it, and giving more enthusiasm to it, that's a very simple way to start succeeding more in your life. Because the last thing I'd say on that is, a lot of people want the rewards of world class, but they're not willing to do what world class requires.
Totally agree. You are talking a lot about discipline and habits, which actually kind of build up our motivation and engagement. Do you think it's anything else? Because this is something that we lack sometimes, the energy to fulfill our dreams.
Well, again, let's go to the science. The science says that willpower is like a muscle. And the more we flex it, the stronger it grows. So it's like in the gym. If you've never lifted 10 kgs, you've got to start off small. But if you go to the gym every day or every other day, you're going to build the capability. So it's the same with self-discipline. It's the same with, right? If you get up in the morning, you don't make your bed, you actually make your bed. Usually you eat the wrong food full of sugar, you actually eat something healthy. That first step could be the beginning of a lot more strength. And if you do it every single day, your willpower and your self-discipline gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's the value of the 5 a.m. Club. So many people around the world are getting so much benefit from that book, because by getting up at 5 a.m., it's difficult at first because all change is hard at first, messy in the middle, gorgeous at the end. But by building the habit of getting up at 5 a.m., you start the day with a primary victory over your weakness. And that sets the tone for the day, where you can start making other decisions that are disciplined and excellent and wise and healthy. And if you keep on doing that every day, the human being gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And let's say one of your listeners or viewers says, no, that's not possible. Well, the science says every human being has a gift. And Anna, that gift is called neuroplasticity, which is a brain that can adapt to new experiences. And so whether it's getting up at 5 a.m., whether it's doing better work at work, whether it's being kinder to strangers, whether it's turning off the television for an hour every night, or turning off the internet and reading a thoughtful book, our brains can adapt and install new habits when the skill that we want to develop is done consistently over time. And it's worth noting, University College London has done research that says it takes 66 days of practicing a new habit, like the 5 a.m. Club, or reading at night, or writing in a journal, or eating better food. 66 days at what it is, approximately what it takes to install this new habit, to the point where it becomes easier to do the new habit than not to do the new habit.
Yeah, I'll try tomorrow then. I start from tomorrow. What about failures? Because do you think that we need those failures, negative emotions, traumas? Do they kind of are counterbalance for the positive ones?
Yes, I think the whole world is a counterbalance. There's love and there's hate. There's light. There's darkness. There's yin. There's yang. And that's a little philosophical. So, and philosophy is very important. There's philosophical ideas in the Everyday Hero Manifesto, because I think philosophy our world loves science. Our world loves habits right now. Our world loves tactics. But methods or methodology without philosophy could lead you to climb mountains very excellently, but realize they're the wrong mountains. So what I've tried to build the Everyday Hero Manifesto around is philosophy, a lot of ideas and truths and wisdom about how can you become more successful, more happy, more healthy, make a bigger difference in your life and in the world. But also, philosophy without methodology is a waste of time. So I've also tried to use a lot of methodology and tactics that will help people in the book.
Yeah, the philosophy is kind of an engine for me, and then the methodology is like a tool to get to the mountain, as you said before. So, but
I think that's right. I think that's right. Forgive me if I could just say, I think it's a great metaphor. The philosophy is, which mountain shall I climb? And then the methodology are, what tools and tactics should I use to make the climb?
Exactly. So everything is changing, as you said. Our brain is adapting to different situations, and we can actually teach it everything and adapt to everything. So what do you think about building a resilience, something that is really very common to talk about lately?
Yes. Well, I think that goes back to your excellent question about failure. And what I would say is, first of all, yes, failure is absolutely necessary for growth. Failure is the price of ambition. No one builds a great company. No one builds a great life. No one rises to their next level of success and happiness and peacefulness without stumbling. It's not possible. I mean, a ship that stays in the harbor never gets tossed around in the rough seas, but that's not what ships are made for. So I would suggest to you that failure is the price of ambition. And failure is necessary because every time we fail, if we choose, we can grow from it. I mean, we get stronger by suffering. Science has this term, you've heard of it, it's post-traumatic stress, right? Post-traumatic stress. But there's also a new term that's being talked about, and it's called post-traumatic growth. And so when we have a so-called failure, most people, the majority, go, oh, I failed. I had difficulties in my business. I had difficulties in that relationship. I had difficulties with their health. And they don't grow anymore. And they use that to become bitter and negative and cynical. The reason I call the book The Everyday Hero Manifesto, what everyday heroes do is when they fail, they say, what's the opportunity here? How can I actually exploit this failure so I grow and I become wiser and I learn from it? And actually, as an artist, I'm a writer, the things that have broken my heart have opened my heart. And every time I've had a so-called tragedy in my life, my books have become deeper and more creative and more interesting. So I think failure is absolutely necessary, not only for innovation in business, for example, but also to create the failures crack our ego. If you look at Nelson Mandela, for example, he was in prison for 27 years. But Anna, every picture of Nelson Mandela after he was released from prison that I've seen shows him smiling or laughing. And it was the suffering and the pain that purified him. So failure, as I say in the Everyday Hero Manifesto, a failure is only a failure if we choose to see it as a failure. And that leads to resilience. Resilience is basically the byproduct of turning your failures into fuel.
Yeah, it's kind of complicated word that we have to navigate ourselves in. And as you said in your book, we need a self-leadership in it. And also in your book, you mentioned the special algorithm, how to self-leadership yourself. Tell us more about that.
Well, the doorway to success opens inward, not outward. And what I mean by that is, you're right, there's a lot of volatility in the world right now. There's wars, there's viruses, there's extreme economic volatility as well. There's social polarization, there's climate change, and it just goes on and on. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've never seen so much dramatic change at the same time. So what's the solution? Well, victims are frightened by change. Leaders are inspired by change. The time to show heroism is in dark and difficult times. So for a lot of people, they're very scared about the world we live in. But if you do the things that I talk about and you prepare yourself, you can get stronger and wiser, and then you install the right habits for work and your personal life, then you can actually use this time of deep change to help more people, to be more inspirational, to seize opportunities, and to make the world a better place. So we all wait for more heroes to show up. If we do the right things, we can be the heroes that we're waiting to see in the world.
And what do you think, which or how big is the role of self-development in this leading yourself?
Well, that's exactly what I'm speaking about. Getting more fit, eating the right food, installing the right beliefs, being in nature more often, disconnecting for a period of time every day from technology, having proper sleep. doing things like meditation, which science has confirmed reduces inflammation and adds to longevity. Trying fasting, for example. All of these techniques that I talk about in the book, along with the work techniques I talk about, like the 90-91 rule, where for the next 90 days, for your first 90 minutes at work, you don't chit chat and waste time and check email, but you focus on the one project that is your most valuable project. All those different things that I talk about, those self-development habits and those leadership development habits, those are the very things that will allow us to step into more of our potential and our gifts and our talents. That will give us more energy. They will make us more productive. When we do that, we bring more value to the world. And then the world becomes a safer place. I think the universe has a very fair accounting system. We get from life not what we want, we get from life who we are. And as we help more people and become bigger, stronger, better people, the world replies with an easier life. I'm not saying we're going to have a perfect life. That's magical thinking. But we don't have to make these excuses and come up with this story, which is, well, I have to live like this, and life is difficult, and the world is a messy place right now, and I just have to escape into my phone or alcohol or complaining or other addictions. We have incredible choices. Whether we want to exercise our power of choice today or not, we have an incredible amount of choices available to us to think better thoughts, to be around better people, to do better work, to eat better food, to do better things. And as we do those little things every day, you know, in the Everyday Hero Manifesto, I say small little improvements when done consistently over time lead to stunning results. It's those 1% improvements when done consistently every day. Anyone can make 1% improvements in the important areas of their lives, but those 1% improvements compound or stack into massive improvements when done consistently over time. That's a really, really important point.
I'm just thinking that everyone is different, and you mentioned so many tactics. And do you think that all works for everyone, or there should be like customized? How to find out, you know, the set that really works for me?
Yes, I think you know, some will try getting up at 5 a.m. and, you know, right now millions of people have read the book and are getting huge gains from having a great morning routine. Some people won't want to get up at 5 a.m., and that's fine. Some people will want to schedule their weeks. I mean, one of the best things I do in my life is every Sunday morning, I go through the process that I talk about in the book, and I schedule what I call the blueprint for a beautiful week. I schedule my work commitments, my personal commitments, my family time, my time to meditate, my nature walks. That has been incredibly helpful for me to be focused and productive, but that might not be for everyone. I like to fast 3 or 4 times a week. You know, my last meal will be at 9 o'clock. The next meal will be at 4 o'clock the next day, and I've trained myself to do it. There's a lot of very good science showing that fasting creates a state called autophagy, which cleanses cells and releases toxins and extends longevity. Fasting won't be for everyone. The key is to at least have the openness of mind and spirit to try different things. Because if we don't try new habits, or we don't explore new ideas, or we don't have the openness to read a new book or have a new conversation, Anna, we're going to be stuck. And then we're going to blame the world around us for our lost promise. When it's not the world around us, we've created our own situation.
Exactly. So what about you? What's one most important thing in your personal habits and life to maintain the balance in life?
Well, the 5 a.m. club. That's why I wrote the book. It helped my clients so much. It's helped me so much. I mean, the idea of the Spartan warriors say it very well: sweat more in training and you'll bleed less in war. So I get up at 4:45 and at 5 o'clock, I run through my morning routine. And that's my practice time. That's where I meditate and I pray to build a stronger mindset. It's where I'll write in my journal about my dreams or my hopes, or if I'm going through a difficult time, I'll process through pain. in my morning routine from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the 5 a.m. Club book, I call it my victory hour. I'll read. I'll spend maybe 15 or 20 minutes reading. Maybe it's an autobiography about a great woman, a great man, an artist, an entrepreneur. Maybe it's a book on productivity. Maybe it's a book on spirituality. But that morning routine from 5 to 6, the 5 a.m. Club method, has helped me incredibly, because too many people get up and they chase the day. And it's a day full of stress and they're reactive. If you get up earlier, it's so quiet. There's a magic in the air from 5 to 6 in the morning. And you start your day on your terms. So that's one habit that has helped me incredibly. Another habit that has helped me is a near daily walk in nature. I'll finish my work, I'll go out and walk in the woods, I'll listen to an audiobook, or maybe I'll just think. But breathing the air, walking in nature, very grounding. It's a second period of exercise, but it's so good for the spirit. Another thing I mentioned, writing in a journal, writing about where you're winning, writing about gratefulness, writing about what life is teaching you, writing about where you want to be 3 years from now, professionally, personally, spiritually. Those kinds of things are incredibly important. Then also putting family first has been very central to me, like having a family meal at least 3 or 4 times a week and creating beautiful experiences for my family, even if they're very simple. It's brought me a lot of happiness and fulfillment, because what's the point of being successful in the world, but you get there alone?
So true. Thank you very much, Robin. You are such an inspiring person, and I love your books because they are so convincing, because they're true, and it's like really you. It's not some theory. It's like when you read it, you feel yourself and your experience in that. So everybody listening, just get to the Robin Sharma books right now and try to find your customized habits and tactics that will make you self-leader, everyday hero of a day. Thank you, Robin.
It's been a pleasure, Anna. Thanks for your time.